My wife abandoned me and our 5-year-old daughter with a note, took $15,000 and left with multiple men. But when life destroyed her and she came back begging to return home, my answer left everyone speechless. I'm 34 years old, I work in digital marketing, and about 6 months ago, my life turned into absolute chaos when I came home from work and found a note from my wife Jessica saying she was leaving. Just like that, I mean, no prior conversation, no clear signs, nothing, just a note on the kitchen table saying she needed time to find herself and not to try to look for her. And there I was, standing in my own living room like an idiot, with my 5-year-old daughter Isabella, who was going to arrive in half an hour from kindergarten, and basically not knowing what the hell had just happened to my marriage. I guess I should start from the beginning, so this makes sense. Jessica and I met like 8 years ago at a mutual friend's party. Typical story of meeting, falling in love, all that. We got married 3 years later and had Isabella when I was 28 and she was 26. For years, I thought we had a normal marriage. Not perfect, obviously, because no marriage is, but functional, We had our arguments like any couple. Especially after Isabella was born, because the lack of sleep and stress of being first-time parents hit us hard, but nothing that made me think my wife was going to disappear one random day from my life. The last 6 months before she left, looking back now, there were signs I should have noticed, but I was so caught up in my own routine of work, taking care of Isabella, maintaining the house, that I didn't pay enough attention. Jessica had started going out more with her friends, which didn't seem weird to me because the truth is that since we had Isabella, she barely had a social life. So I thought, good for her, let her go out and have some fun. She also started spending more time on her phone. But again, who isn't glued to their phone nowadays? I check mine like 1,000 times a day myself. What I did notice was that she was more emotionally distant, like less interested in me or what I did. But when I tried to talk to her about it, she'd say she was tired or stressed about her work, and I believed her because her sales job was pretty demanding. The night before she left, we had sex, which now seems super disturbing to me because, how can you be with someone knowing that the next day you're going to leave without saying anything? She acted completely normal that night. We watched a Netflix movie after putting Isabella to bed. We laughed at some scenes. It was all very normal. That's why when I found the note the next day, I was literally in shock. Like I couldn't process that this was real. The note said something like, "Michael, I need time for myself, to find who I am outside of being a wife and mother. Don't try to contact me. I'll come back when I'm ready." And that was it. Like 4 lines after 7 years together. But the first thing I did after reading the note like 10 times was call her, obviously, but her phone went straight to voicemail. I sent her like 20 text messages. Nothing. I called her best friend, Melissa from college, thinking maybe she knew something, but she was as confused as I was. She told me Jessica hadn't mentioned anything about leaving or having problems in the marriage. I called my parents because, honestly, I didn't know what else to do, and I needed someone to tell me what the hell to do with Isabella when she got home. Because how do you explain to a 5-year-old girl that her mom left without saying goodbye? My parents were incredible, honestly. My mom came to the house immediately and was with me when Isabella arrived. We told her that mommy had to go on a work trip for a while, which technically wasn't completely a lie, but it wasn't the whole truth either. Isabella asked when she was coming back, and I didn't know what to answer. So my mom said soon, even though none of us had any idea if that was true. Isabella seemed to accept it with that ease that small children have. Like, okay, that's fine. Can I watch TV? And there I was, thinking my life was falling apart, but I had to keep my composure for her. The first few days were a complete nightmare. I wasn't sleeping, barely eating. I was checking my phone every 5 minutes, waiting for a message or call from Jessica. My brother Andrew came to stay with me for like a week because he was worried I couldn't take good care of Isabella being so bad off. And he was right. Honestly, because there were moments when I'd just stare at the wall for hours doing nothing. Andrew was the one who made me snap out of it a bit, he told me. "Look, brother, I don't know what's going on with Jessica, but you have a daughter who needs you functional right now. So you need to get up and be a father even though you feel like crap." And he was right. So I started forcing myself to maintain a routine. Take Isabella to kindergarten, go to work, even though I couldn't concentrate on anything. Prepare dinners, read bedtime stories, all that. About a week after Jessica left, I checked our shared bank account because I needed to pay some bills, and that's when I discovered she had withdrawn like $15,000 from our savings 2 days before leaving. $15,000, like almost half of what we had saved. That hit me hard because it meant she had planned this. It wasn't an impulsive decision of the moment. She literally prepared her escape in advance. I felt so betrayed in that moment. I mean, one thing is leaving because you need space or whatever, but another very different thing is stealing money from your family before doing it. I tried not to obsess about where she was or what she was doing, but it's impossible not to ask yourself those things when your wife disappears out of nowhere. I checked her social media constantly, even though I knew it was unhealthy. During the first 2 weeks, she didn't post anything anywhere. Her Instagram, Facebook, everything was the same as before she left. But then, like 3 weeks after she left, she posted a photo on Instagram, a selfie of her at the beach, with sunglasses and her hair down, looking super relaxed and happy, and the caption said, "Finally feeling free." When I saw that, I felt like I'd been kicked in the stomach, you know? Like, your daughter cries for you every night before bed asking when you're coming back, and you're at the beach feeling free. Seriously? The comments on that photo were the worst. People who knew her, like her friends and coworkers, commenting things like, "You look amazing, you deserve this, live your best life." And I was thinking, do these people know she abandoned her daughter? Or do they even care? I wanted to comment something, defend my side of the story, but Andrew stopped me. He told me I wasn't going to accomplish anything good with that, and I was only going to make myself look desperate. So I didn't comment anything. I just saved a screenshot because something told me I was going to need evidence of all this eventually. Like another month passed without any contact from Jessica, and I was honestly already starting to accept that maybe our family had ended, and I had to start thinking about Isabella's and my future without her. It was my brother who suggested I check Jessica's email, which I know is technically wrong to invade someone's privacy like that. But the thing is, she had abandoned me with our daughter without explanation. So, at that point, I felt I had the right to know what the hell was going on. I still had her password saved on my laptop from when she had asked me to help her with something on her account months ago. What I found when I logged into her email was worse than I had imagined. There were notifications from dating apps like Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, like 3 or 4 different apps. The emails started like 2 weeks before she left, so she was using these apps while still living with me, while still sleeping in our bed, while still technically being my wife. There were confirmation messages of matches, notifications of messages from guys, all that. I started digging deeper and found she had created a secondary email specifically for these apps, like to keep everything separate and secret, which showed me she knew perfectly well that what she was doing was wrong. In that secondary email, there were conversations she had forwarded to herself with different men, some super sexual and explicit, others more like plans to meet up, hotel addresses, that kind of stuff. There was one in particular, a guy named something like Brad or Brian, I don't remember exactly, with whom she had exchanged photos. And when I say photos, I mean intimate photos, like they left nothing to the imagination. I had to close the laptop at that moment because I felt like I was going to throw up. Literally, my stomach churned, and I had to go to the bathroom to splash water on my face to not collapse right there. What hurt me the most, beyond the obvious betrayal of her being with other men, was realizing that our life together had been a lie for at least those last months. Every time she told me she was going out with Melissa or with her coworkers, she was probably going to see one of these guys. Every time she was glued to her phone at home, she was probably sexting some stranger from the internet. And there I was, like an idiot, completely trusting her, not suspecting anything, thinking we had a normal marriage with normal problems we could solve if we tried. I kept investigating because at that point I needed to know everything. Like, I had already come so far that I needed to see the complete magnitude of the situation. I found a shared photo album on Google Photos she had created. I don't know if on purpose or by accident, but I had access because we were in the same Google family group. The photos were of her, with different men in different places, restaurants, bars. One in particular seemed to be from a trip to the mountains she supposedly had taken with Melissa like 4 months ago. Clearly she wasn't with Melissa on that trip. There were photos of her kissing one of the guys, hugging him, looking super in love and happy. It was like watching the life of a complete stranger, not the woman I had married. At that moment, I knew I needed to talk to a lawyer, because this was no longer a matter of Jessica needing time or space. This was clearly the end of the marriage. I hired a lawyer specializing in divorces that a friend recommended and showed him everything I had found. He told me that with all this evidence of infidelity and abandonment, I had a very strong position for the divorce and to obtain full custody of Isabella. He also suggested I document everything, every expense I made on Isabella, every time Jessica didn't communicate with us, everything, because all of that was going to help in the case. I started the divorce proceedings like 2 months after Jessica left. It was one of the hardest moments because it meant officially accepting that my marriage had ended and that the family I had imagined for Isabella no longer existed. But it was also liberating in a way, because I was no longer in this horrible limbo of not knowing what was happening. Now I was taking control of the situation and deciding my own future and my daughter's. Life started finding a new rhythm, let's say. Isabella and I developed our own routines. On weekends, we'd go to the park or the movies. My parents helped us a lot with Isabella's care when I had to work late. I learned to cook new recipes because before Jessica was the one who cooked more. Basically, we were adapting to being a family of 2 instead of 3. Isabella still asked about her mom from time to time, but less and less, which broke my heart in a way because a girl shouldn't have to get used to living without her mother. Then Thanksgiving came. Thanksgiving Day, like 4 months after Jessica left. My parents had organized the family dinner as always. All the family was going to be there, my uncles, my cousins, everyone. Isabella was super excited because she loved these family gatherings, especially because my cousins have kids of similar ages and she could play with them. We were all at my parents' house. We had already started eating the appetizers when suddenly the doorbell rings and my dad goes to open the door. And there was Jessica, standing at the door like nothing, with a smile on her face and a pumpkin pie in her hands. We were all in total shock, like nobody knew what to say or do. Isabella ran to her screaming. Mommy and Jessica picked her up and hugged her like nothing weird had happened, like she hadn't abandoned her for 4 months without explanation. I stood there paralyzed in the middle of the living room with a plate of food in my hand, unable to process that this was actually happening. Jessica came into the house acting super casual, greeted everyone, gave my mom the pie, sat at the table like it was a normal family dinner. My mom looked at me with a face like, "What do we do?" And I honestly had no idea. Part of me wanted to yell at her to leave, but Isabella was there, and I didn't want to make a scene in front of her. So we just continued with dinner, the most awkward thing of my life, with Jessica acting like these 4 months hadn't existed, telling stories and laughing, being charming with my family like she had always been. I tried to talk to her privately a couple of times during dinner, but she always found a way to avoid it, like she'd go to the bathroom or offer to help my mom in the kitchen just when I approached. After dinner, she was playing with Isabella on the floor, putting together a puzzle with her, and I was thinking, how can you act so normal? How do you not show even a little bit of shame or remorse for what you did? But nothing from her. Zero signs that she understood the magnitude of her abandonment. At the end of the night, when people started leaving, Jessica also got ready to leave. She grabbed her purse, gave Isabella a kiss, and told her, "I love you so much, princess. See you soon," Isabella asked her. "Are you coming home with us?" And Jessica just said, "Not tonight, honey, but soon, I promise." And she left, just like that, leaving Isabella crying and me with more questions than answers. My parents didn't know what to say. We were all in shock that she had shown up like that out of nowhere and then left again without any real explanation. Like 3 more weeks passed without hearing anything from Jessica. Isabella went back to asking about her, the first few days after Thanksgiving, but then seemed to resign herself again to the fact that Mommy wasn't there. I continued forward with the divorce process. My lawyer tried to contact Jessica several times to notify her about the legal papers, but she didn't respond to any calls or emails. So eventually we had to serve her the papers through public notification because we didn't have a physical address where to find her. Then, out of nowhere, I received a text message from Jessica on a Tuesday afternoon. It said, "Can we meet to talk? There are things I need to tell you." My first reaction was to ignore it because after everything that had happened, I didn't owe her anything, but I was also curious to know what she wanted. and maybe a part of me hoped she was finally going to give some kind of explanation or real apology. I responded that we could meet at a coffee shop near my work the next day, a public place where she couldn't make a scene. I arrived at the coffee shop 15 minutes before the agreed time, because I'm anxious like that. I ordered myself a coffee and sat at a table in the back. Jessica arrived on time, which surprised me because she had always been late to everything. She looked different. She had shorter hair and a different color. She had lost weight. She was wearing clothes I had never seen her wear before, like more youthful and daring than her normal style. She sat in front of me and the first thing she said was, "Thanks for coming. I know I don't deserve for you to listen to me." At least she was right about that. She started talking about how these months had been of a lot of personal growth for her, that she had discovered things about herself she didn't know, that she needed that time away to understand who she really was. All that self-help speech that sounds nice but basically means nothing. I let her talk without interrupting her, just drinking my coffee and waiting for her to get to the point. Finally, after like 10 minutes of this spiel, she said, "I've had some financial problems lately and I need help." That's when she told me that one of the men she had met online, apparently someone with whom she had developed a more serious relationship during these months, had scammed her. He had gotten like $10,000 from her with some story about an investment or a business. I didn't pay much attention to the details because, honestly, I didn't care. The point was that now she was broke, living in a friend's apartment but needed to find her own place, and apparently she thought I was going to feel sorry for her and help her. I asked her directly, "What is it you want from me, Jessica?" Because I no longer had patience to beat around the bush. She looked at me with those eyes that used to melt me and said, "I want to come back home, just for a while, until I can get a stable job and save for my own place. I promise not to cause problems. I can sleep on the couch. It doesn't even have to be like before between us." I stared at her, unable to believe she was really asking me this. After everything, after abandoning us, after cheating on me with multiple men, after appearing and disappearing whenever she felt like it, now she wanted to come back because she had screwed up her new life? I told her no, very calmly but very firmly. I told her she had made her decision when she left, that she had chosen her freedom over her family, and that now she had to live with the consequences of that decision. I told her that Isabella and I, who had started rebuilding our lives without her, and that I wasn't going to allow her to come in again just to hurt us again when she decided she needed more time to find herself or whatever. I told her my lawyer had been trying to contact her about the divorce, and that if she wanted to discuss anything, to do it through her own lawyer. Jessica started crying, which didn't move me at all, because I had seen her cry before and knew she could turn it on and off when it suited her. She tried to grab my hand across the table, but I pulled it away. She said I was being cruel, that she was Isabella's mother and deserved another chance, that everyone makes mistakes. And I told her, "Jessica, you didn't make a mistake. You made hundreds of conscious decisions over months that led to destroying our family. That's not a mistake. That's who you decided to be." I got up from the table, left money to pay for the coffees even though she hadn't even ordered anything, and left. She called out to me as I was leaving, but I didn't stop. I just kept walking to my car. When I got in and closed the door, I sat there for a moment waiting to feel something. Sadness, anger, regret, but the only thing I felt was relief. Relief from having been strong enough to say no. Relief from not having fallen for the manipulation. Relief from knowing I was doing the right thing for Isabella and for me. That was like 2 months ago. Jessica hasn't tried to contact me again since that day at the coffee shop. The divorce is moving forward. It should be finalized in the next few months. Isabella is okay. Better than I expected, honestly. She goes to child therapy once a week to process everything about her mom, and her therapist says she's handling the situation very well, considering her age. She still asks about Jessica sometimes, but not with that desperation of the first months. Now it's more like a casual question, like, "Where's mommy?" And when I answer that I don't know, she just says, "Oh, okay," and keeps playing with her toys. I also started therapy, something I should have done much earlier, honestly. And it's helping me process all the betrayal and abandonment, to not blame myself for not having seen the signs, to understand that none of this was my fault. My therapist told me something that stuck with me. She told me, "The end of a marriage doesn't always mean the end of your life." Sometimes it means the beginning of a better one. And I think she's right, because even though these months have been the hardest of my life, I've also grown more as a person and as a father than I ever imagined I could. Last week, Isabella and I were at the park. She was on the swings and asked me to push her higher. While I was pushing her and listening to her laugh, I realized we were happy. Just the two of us. Not complete, maybe, because there will always be an empty space where her mother should be, but happy and functional and strong. Isabella turned around while swinging and yelled at me, "I love you, Daddy. You're the best daddy in the world." And I responded, "I love you more, Princess." And in that moment, I knew we were going to be okay. That whatever the future brings us, the two of us can handle it together. I don't know if Jessica will ever realize what she lost, if she'll feel real regret for having abandoned her daughter, if she'll understand that what she did has no justification. Honestly, I don't care much anymore. She made her choices, and I made mine. The only thing I care about now is giving Isabella the best life possible and teaching her that real love doesn't abandon. That true family stays even when things get difficult, and that she will always have her daddy no matter what happens.